All right, hey, thanks for tuning in for today's live stream. On Thursdays, I've been sponsored by Esteemed to work on PHPStan. So Esteemed is an AI-powered talent management and career solutions provider for digital professionals. If you're looking for a contract or full-time gig, you can check out their job board at esteemed.io/jobs. In addition to being a great source for jobs, they also have a very strong community and network of developers that you can communicate with and touch base with. If you haven't checked them out at one of their lunch and learns or a Drupal camp, you can check them out at the link I'll put in the chat later. I recommend checking them out at esteem.io and hang out with their network of developers. All right, so for the past few weeks, I've been trying to work on this PR, few weeks, I guess almost a month now, where the ability to call non-static methods statically has been removed. Before in PHP 7, this just threw a warning, and now it's actually like a fatal error in PHP 8. And it's been a challenge to get this to work. So one of the next steps I want to do is I'm going to try to clean up my code, because I feel like I made a breakthrough last week on the tests, but I had modified so many things that I wanted to kind of play cleanup a little bit. So like one suggestion from the maintainer was to pass a scope to find type and method name, but I've made so many adjustments to various tests that I'm not sure if I fixed or broke, or if I just made things more broken. So I'm going to go through the changes that have been made so far and revert any changes to tests that are outside of my own. Because I did find out some of my initial code actually broke the way PHP is expected to work, where you can have a non-static method and call it statically when you're inside the class itself, because you're inside of an instance. So I broke some ways that PHP actually do work and parse things when I thought I had this fixed, and I had to go back and I realized that I just made a bigger mess of things. So what I want to do is basically go back and fix any changes to tests that don't touch 5782 and take it from there. And to make this easier, I'm just going to go ahead and mark this as viewed. So this is something that was suggested to add legacy node resolver test. That right there, these actually static, those are things that I should remove. So let's go this test. And so if we go to the data callables, you can see this actually static. It doesn't matter because we're inside this class. So the real test case is when calling a non-static method outside of the class itself. And I finally have the proper test fixture to prove this. So I'm going to go ahead and revert some of these changes that I've made. So data callables, let's see, line 3239. Let's remove that. Actually static, let's delete these. This should pass. Datable callables, we'll delete these actually calls. And here we go. All right, so let's run this test. I want to run this test and make sure it still passes. It should. Hold on, gotta wait for it to finish thinking. It's not gonna let me run the entire test. So let's just look for callables. So test callables. This should just pass. Okay, it does. To take this as revert changes to legacy node scope resolver test. I should have skipped the checks, so that way this would be faster. Yeah, commit the check. All right, so we're gonna revert these changes. this callable static rules method test. I believe this is where the actual work is. I'm also slightly concerned that I deleted this test. I didn't realize this. 5278 is my own test. So this needs to get added back in. Where this was its one line of code. Let's run this to make sure. Oh, check this only. It's false. So let's run. All right, I'm going to commit this to fix accidental deletion of that test method. Right. Now we have 5782, which is the bug I am working on. Yep, 5782. And let's see here that we can't test it on PHP 8.0 because it will return a fatal error. Actually, I believe that is false because we're not executing the code. Before, I did not have these function calls wrapped in a, or this code wrapped in a function call, so it's actually executing. So I can remove that. And I'm going to run this test. You see, we expect there to be 2 errors. My cat got locked in my office. I expected there to be 2 errors on line 22, and then no, line 22. Line 26. Actually, line 26, I expect an error because it gets returned as a mixed type when we do an array. When we do the callable in an array format, it works as expected, but not when it's a string, because it returns a mixed type instead of an error, like constant array type. So this is the root of the problem. So here's one that concerns me. Call static method rule test. Change that from 16 to 18. So let's revert that back because that's another thing that should not have been changed. So bug 1971. Let's go and delete lines 16 and 17. Because it's inside of a class. So really what we've done makes no difference. So let's run 1971. So expects parameter 1 of callback static closure from callable mixed array mixed given. So this shows that there is a I've broken something, because this should be okay. We proved that in, let's see, I want to just, okay, we're at the end of the review. So let me just make a commit that shows we reverted. So revert changes to bug to test of, let's see. So commit that. Commit anyway. So let's reset. I want to find the examples that were shared. The problem is that this actually does work. This is it. So right now, when I run the test for 1971, you can see here that the error should be on line 16 for this callable because hello2 does not exist, but we're getting errors for 14 and 15. Yet you can see in this code, there's no errors from PHP 7 to 8. Like, it is okay. So this is, we created a bug failure, or we created an actual failure. And if I use the, let's see, master, and I compare with current, I want to just do a diff. That's not entirely what I want to do. It's a master branch. Show diff with working tree. Here we go. Swap the branches. All right. I was hoping it would just show a little bit of a change. I'm going to push this so that way I can review the full diff. And uncheck these things that were reviewed. And go from the bottom top. So this is our sample, and that should be having errors. We should have the second error due to constant string type. And then we have our code here in constant string type, which returns inaccessible method, which returns a mixed type instead of it that it doesn't exist. I don't think that's correct. I need to raise that. And then we have the additions here that handle in constant array type. And constant array type is what is the bug that's causing failures here. With the, and I identify that it's due to this find type and name out of scope. So need to work on these. The first step I want to take is getting this 1971 to pass. So I've been able to at least go down the rabbit hole, come back a bit, reduce the amount of changes so there's less noise, and start to figure out why this is failing. So let's look at constant array type. And is callable. So this is where the bug happens. It's this is callable. We're not in a class scope because is callable can be called from anything without a scope. And I'm not sure how we can work around this. So you can see I already have a breakpoint in is super type of internal. And it says this type is callable, which brings us to here. Find type and method name. You can see this type, value types, constant string type is hello world, say hello. And if we look at our tests, that is this first line here. Doesn't show the exact line at this point, but we are dealing with this right here. Constant string type is class string, false. So we'll step in out of the autoloader. So we've got the autoload scope. And now we're at find method type and name inside constant array type. And let's see. We see here is class or object and method from the value types. So is class string, that's one thing we have to check if the class object is a class string or not. Which at this point, we don't know what class or object could be. It's just a type. So is class string comes on constant string type. I guess, oh yeah, because it could be any other kind of constant that's not a class. So we step over. It is a string, or it is a class string. The alternative is like a generic class string type or object without class, like an anonymous class, I believe is what that covers. So we've got the reflection provider. Sorry. So we have the reflection provider and the type. It creates the new object type from the class name. So here we go. This represents the reflection, you will, of the object. Let's check if it has the method. We know that it is a class string. Has is yes. Value 1 means yes. 0 is maybe. -1 is no. This is where it breaks. If the scope is not in a class, it breaks because you can only call it statically if you're inside of a class. And I don't know of any way for us to fix this. Because it is callable, and its closure from callable dynamic return extension. Get type. Now this has a scope, so that's one thing we could do. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint here in this return type extension, and hit play. So the problem we have callable type. We have the value types. Again, it's say hello. So we're gonna step back into here. We step up. It's not no. But it's also not yes. That's the problem. So if we do callable type, so here's the other part. Callable type, if we step in to here, this scope is a mutating scope. And part of me feels like it needs to go, that logic needs to also be added here. So instead of in find, I wonder if we need to move the logic into get callable parameters acceptors and not in find type and method name. So the method name should always exist, but the get callable parameters returns trivial if it's not known. Because right here we'll see type method name if certainty is not equal to yes. What's the certainty? Certainty is 1. Method. Why is this? Hold on. I'm going to restart this because now I went. We got so callable type. We have the first instance, the second instance, and we're back into function call parameter check. That's okay. This is where inside it starts to break down inside of here, because it returns as a mixed. So I need to figure out. So constant array type. We added all this logic here, and I feel like that's the wrong space. It needs to happen in scope or in callable, which is the same thing we do in constant string type. And I was directed to do it in find method type and name, but I feel like it's weird that it's done in one spot and not in the other. So I'm going to go ahead and delete. And I'm just going to I'm going to remove this. So let's go ahead and hit. Let's see what happens when I comment that out and play it. We get a pass. We get a pass because it's broken here. And if I were to call my test, nothing fails. So let's try adding this into get callable parameters acceptors. So where I wanted to do it is in scope can call method. This is where I felt like it belonged. Can access class member. Like this should say like, is it static and not in the scope, but we don't have the scope here. So maybe we just need to do it in here anyways. I moved this the wrong way. Let's split it to the side. All right, so how do I have it in get callable parameters acceptors? So find type a name, get type, get method. Matches 1 for the class reflection. So what I think we need to do after can call method, so if scope, so if we're not in class, right? Rather, if we're not in a class and the method is not static. Let's go ahead and this is here, class reflection. Oop, that's a string type. So this, we would do type get name, right? Get type, get method. Scope is subclass of. My problem is this being so we have if here, let's do a return inaccessible method. Should have known that get constant array, get name on null. And that's because we need to switch up here, class or object or method. So type in method name is constant array type in method. Get type. Oh, shoot. So this find method type. Okay. So it returns this concrete from type let's do a breakpoint here to just make sure we can get the class name appropriately. So stop, type and method name. Type is object type. So get type. It should always be somebody type if type is null, but it's not typed to be there. Let's see. So certainty, if it's not certain that it exists. So the hard part is like we should return certainty is no. But I want to just at least get this to not cause other test failures. And I believe it belongs in here instead of down in here and adding scope to that. So type name. So get type. Scope is in class. I just wish I don't want to do all this extra resolving. Method get type, get method, method get name. Get method is in the type interface. Type get name. Is there test equals test, we get object type. Because it returns an object type. So returns, yep, object type. And this doesn't have a name to string. I guess. because we know that this will always be a find type and method. See what toString does. So test error type. It can't be casted to a string. Um, to class or object. Object type. I just want to get the class name back from this object type. Class name. Yes. Where can I get this class name? Get class name. Seriously. I guess we'll have to do find type. I don't why would this ever have okay. Oh, because get this object type, get the generic type, generic class string. That's why. So this is the hard part. Like no matter where I go, I get pegged into some kind of hole. It's like get method is static. Get type. Let's try to avoid some of that logic up front. So we'll just first say, if we're not in a class and it is static, let's comment these out for now. So if we're not in a scope, if we're not in a class and the method is not static, and say find type scope, and this value types could be of any type. Now we're duplicating more of the logic down below. I just don't like how it's duplicating logic throughout this. So type is class string true. Type has method is class string. It's all because we have no scope when we do find type a name in a certain area. But get callable parameters acceptors is what we need. Let's do object type. We'll just do type method name get type. Object type instance of constant string type or object type instance of generic class string type. Get ref. So generic class string type. Oh, we just get the type. We don't even know the name of it. Hold on. How does this work down here? Oh, it just gets the generic type. Well, I don't know about the generic string type because it's not doing a reflection. So we'll just say is constant string type that is in class, which we know it's got to be in class if it's through here, because we assume it's in class. So if object is instance of this, and now we can cut these out and paste them here. And we should not get any errors because we know that get type, object type. We'll do object type get what constant string type value value return inaccessible. Let's step through this. Okay, go to the bug, not 1971. So we have 5782. So we're gonna call say hello, which is static. And it should fill in the third one that says say goodbye. So if scope is not in class and method is not static, what is this method? Where's the name? Say goodbye. Okay, so we're at say goodbye. New and oh. So if object type, it already turned inaccessible. Oh, because it. Hold on. Let's test some more. All right. Debug. Object type. We got hello world. The throwable T. Call define object type get value. What? Oh shoot, that's right, because it's an object type. That's why it just passed over. So it should be if object type instance of object type get class name, get class name, and we know it should always be of object type, but I'm just adding another extra if statement. So test, yes, hello world. Another throwable. Call the function get name on null. Where's get name? Oh, scope class reflection. Shoot. Duh. We're not in a class. So that means my logic down here is also wrong. Or in the other area is wrong. So let's redo this logic a little bit. So if the method is not static if so if we're not in a class, so the method's not static, we're not in a class, it should immediately be inaccessible. Otherwise, we need to get the object type and compare the classes. In this case, we could have, let's do class foo bar, foo world, faz bar, oh, 5782, hello world, say goodbye. So that should be an error. Like, we can call it statically inside, but this should also error inside the class. So let's debug this. Oh boy, it failed right away. So static call to instance method say goodbye. So that on line 23 was immediately caught. But the callable, that's right. We want to detect it in a callable. So let's do debug. Now it's nothing is being returned. Just fabulous. Okay, so the method is say goodbye, correct? It's not static, but we are in a class because we're analyzing this first call. So object type is hello world. Scope. So it returns inaccessible method, which does not error. That's the part that bothers me. Closure type, object type, return type is mixed. It shouldn't be a mixed type. And so I'm going to break the pattern in here and say that's a trivial parameters acceptor. That I don't know why we're not saying is unknown and get type certainty is yes, that we're doing trivial. And then down here, we're saying inaccessible. So I think what I'll do is first, I'm going to comment that out. So that way I can prompt discussion in the pull request. So that's the idea. It's like, I'm not sure what to do. We're not pair programming. But if I can leave something and then ask for advice, we can make forward progress. But still no errors were returned. But if I return an accessible method, what do we get? Still nothing. Why is this different than constant string type? Or is it because it doesn't error with mixed? Like if it returns a mixed, it's no problem. No, that's not true. Because this expects callable mixed return. Okay, so that's still an error. Jeez. Let's debug. All right, return new accessible. Where is this going? Mutating scope. Return type. Node scope resolver. Let's figure out where this bubbles back up to. Now we're back at the method out of scope class. What is this? This processes the node. Type map. Empty, empty. Union. Okay. Resolved functions, variant, parameters, acceptors. Function call parameter. So this is the other part too, is this function parameters ends up running the whole show. So named arguments. So where was that? Let's check. So get type instance of. Somewhere in here is where I had the breakpoint, then I removed it. So now I need to just step through. Edit errors, arguments with parameters. Parameter type. Callable type. So, okay, it's this this rule level helper that seems to be creates new variable, is declare strict types, accepts. So this is where this accepts is where all the logic, not all the logic, but a lot falls to. So accepts is true. So accepting type is callable. The accepted type is const array string. If accepted type is array. And now it's accepted, even though the accepted type is hello world, say goodbye. So for some reason, this is being allowed, and I don't know why. Accepted type is array. Array type, which is the constant array. It's not into here. Accepts. Where does accepts? I'm going to redo this. So that's one reason we had it in. Okay, so that's one reason it was in find method type and name, because that means it wouldn't be acceptable at all. So the accepting type is a callable. The accepted type that's being passed in is the constant type and name. So let's step through. So accepts type again is the invalid method. This super of internal. And now we go, now we get to the is callable, which goes to find method type and name with the autoscope method, which returns the certainty. Type and method certainty is 1. It definitely exists. If callable is no, or this is common callable, is this is true. So accepts is true. I don't think I'm ever going to win this thing. So accepts, let's see. The super of internal. This callable type. This is common callable. Parameters is equal to null, and return type is equal to null. It equals true. What? Type callable. Parameters is null. Variadic is true. This. Oh, this is going to do no good. It's just going to get called over and over and over again. So that's the problem. Is if I were to put this here and ditch this, and run the test. We see that 23 and 30 are broken, which is what's expected. But that causes other things to break in 1971. All right. Well, this was a bust approach. Maybe I can I got to try to fix it in find type, which using that logic I was coming up with. So if scope is equal to null, so we have if is class string, if is class string, the method is yes. We're not in a class and the method is not static. Returns maybe, and we just always have no scope because the is callable calls don't have a proper scope passed. So I don't think this can be done. So how about 82. Constant string return type. Where's the constant string return type? Also, that's line 31. So it should be lines 5782. What are the errors? 23 and 30. Yeah, 23 and 30, that's expected. Actually, 23, 30, and 31 should be errors. I'm going to put the question in the test so that way the test just works. It won't break once I delete those comments. So yes, we're missing line 31. That should be an error. And I'm going to try to close unmodified tabs. All right. find type and name, find usages. So process node, the scope here. We pass the scope in. Constant, get callable parameters, scope. It has a scope that's passed in, and that is fine. And the problem is here. To do this causes errors when trying to determine if a static method was called outside of its class. Is there a way to fetch the scope, the full scope here? But then that's the problem, is that you're making this very tied to the upper system or the outer system, where it's really self-aware right now, or it's encapsulated. That's the word I'm looking for. Let's see, is accepted by create from Boolean, optional key. Is callable. This find method type and name. It's just like, so let's write up the note. So is there a way to find the scope, full scope here? And out of class scope causes errors to be reported. Oh, hey, Boomer Frank. Thanks for popping in. Just saw the message. I am deep in these thoughts. Thanks for popping in, though. So an out of class scope causes errors when trying, causes frivolous errors when checking if a non-static method was invoked statically in its own class, which is allowed per. Let's go to this editor. All right, so this is our problem. This is callable, needs the proper scope, and that's a lot of changes to this interface when it's pretty well separated from like, so get callable parameters scope. So maybe it's not entirely out there. So we need the mutating scope. And as far as I know, there's no way to fetch this. Show properties, show constants. I don't want to see protected or locked. I want to see what's available. And there's no static methods. It is all just to be fetched. Because that's now would add a whole other breaking change. Should we add a, how did he word it? Let's see. Can call to get this added, which would be an out of class scope. So yeah, that's the root. That's the main bug right there. Create a variable is string type. So I had that resolved. It's resolved. Show the outdated. Okay, that was one of them. Please do not modify the assertions. Yeah. Where it said we should replicate the same logic here so we can take advantage of scope being passed to get callable parameters and also pass along defined method type and name, but as an optional parameter for backwards compatibility. An optional scope parameter is callable, and if null, create a new out of class scope instance. Excuse me. Because I think that's all we can do. Same in here, the scope. And again, the scope only exists here. Why? Oh, wait. Call stack method rules. That's right, because we have it in constant string type. This scope is needed in full here for this get callable parameters. Wait. Scope. We can take advantage of scope being passed to get callable parameters and pass it along to, okay, that's right. Find type and name is only for constant type array. Because we already have the scope and get callable parameters. This should have is callable too. Yeah. So like this is callable. We could improve it in is callable could be improved inside with that as well. Because that's the real check is if it's callable. And that's what I even wrote. One problem I'm hitting is callable does not have a scope. So refine type and method names to be evoked. So I added out of close step, if not null. Resolve that. And let's just make sure the test failures up here are only due to. Yep, these are what I'm seeing locally. Okay. So the scope is null. Out of class scope. I'm going to actually just move this further up. Since it's a new parameter. Although, all right, why do we need scope just to type get method has scope. Or get method, we need the scope. Type has method, get method. We know the type is object without class type. It's some kind of generic type. Generic object type. Scope. Get unresolved method. Scope. Parent with the scope. Scope get. Okay, because it checks if it's in a class or not. Oh, thank you, Will Makes TV, for a resubscribe. Man. find method type array is called and get callable parameters and is callable. I think this is the best I can do right now. And see about getting feedback for this. Type them out of. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm now taking in 11 days. I'll be starting at Acquia as a principal software engineer. Spent the past year doing my own thing, realized that I am not one for professional services, so I found a really awesome product-based role at Acquia working on the Drupal integration team. And I think there's going to be some fun ways to work with Drupal there, involving like external data being synchronized in. So it'd be exciting. I'm not going to renew any more sponsorships for my live streams just because now I have a full-time job. So it feels kind of weird taking on those sponsorships. I have a few more episodes left with this Esteem sponsorship, which thanks again to Esteem for doing that. But I plan on still doing live streams even though I'm there. So I just need to figure out what my new schedule might be. I've gotten words of encouragement from my new team about doing it. Do you think I'll still stream? Yeah, I'll definitely still stream because I can't do video content because when I sit and I have to record stuff, I never get it done. I'm opposite of most people. I'm better on the fly. That's all right. I am much better on the fly with doing things. If I have to sit and prepare and edit, like I will never get it done because I'll like paralyze, but I'm much easier just doing this and going with the flow. But I've heard from my new team that they enjoy these live development streams and there's going to be encouragement to keep doing them. Maybe it'll just be like on Wednesdays, I do my one because, you know, I'll have plenty of work to do. But we'll see. I'll still be doing them. All right. So I'm reviewing this to try to figure out the next steps. So is callable. This needs to have the scope because we need to know if something's callable inside the class or not. I think that's reasonable, but I don't want to make that big change because that's a lot of things to move. So I'm going to propose it and try to remove all these extra little differences. And then go to data. So this proves that you cannot call, the static should not be callable from a non-static method in another class. But inside it's okay, and that's proven in other tests. And then, yeah, so this is updated. So really, the only changes I'm pushing up are just notes on options for next steps. Let's just do make file. Just make sure I didn't break any of the static analysis. And then I'm going to comment on my PR for more information because I really don't know the best next step. And I feel like I've danced around not making that kind of a big change. But what we should do, github.com, PHPStan. I know I was working on something else too. Some kind of other issue. So let's look. Label or author me. Call user funkarray. And then let me clear this filter. So that's right. I was working on this feature request. And this pull request did not get merged in. All right. So a few did. While I wait for this to finish running. So call user funkarray now supports named arguments when doing static analysis. That's a nice little win. And there's someone that's working on implementing a that's working on call user func and call user func array for dynamic return type extensions. So we have, so this fixes the return type, but then the other part is making sure that the actual parameters passed match. So let's rename this issue to I'm just gonna, I'll leave the name. So let's see. Let's look. No errors. All right. Let's commit this. Push. Let me annotate that. Then I'll move over to the call user function array stuff. All right. So let's go here. And I'm at a loss. After circling around this issue for the past few weeks, I think we need to pass. I'm going to hit cancel. I want to make sure I get the entire. Pass the scope to is callable. Knowing if something is callable depends on the scope, so we can check the current class. Check the current class. Static methods can a static method on a class, a non-static method on a class can be invoked statically if it's the same class. If it's within, if it is within the same class. This is impossible. This will always be false given out of class scope. This would also improve detection and constant string type. I didn't want to make the big change without first discussing. So start a review. All right. So we pass the scope define type. I wasn't sure if this should be pushed to the top of the method to provide a value for a default nullable meant for backwards compatibility or instantiated when it's finally needed. Also, we can get the method from inside the scope. I feel like we have the class reflection. Well, we know we only have the reflection provider if it's a concrete class. We have no idea if it's a generic type. So that's why, because we have generic support. So that's my original comment that got me to this area to begin with. Constant string type. Constant string type is callable. class has method returns yes. Let's see. I believe adding the scope to copy the reference will excuse me, also cause this test failure to be fixed. Without the scope to know what class, if we're in a class or not, this always returns as yes for the method being callable when it actually may not be. And okay, so I'm going to finish my review. I'd like your feedback on a proposal. I want to be strong in my words. That's always one thing to do with like your pull requests and things. Like, don't need to be like, I think, worry about feelings. Like, just be straightforward. You're not insulting somebody. Like, make your case. I believe we need to add the scope to is callable. The only problem is callable is maybe callable trait is on the interface. To like get callable parameters acceptors. This way we can determine the class context if if a static method is truly callable or not. All right. Comment that. Let's look at the results. Hopefully it's just the errors that I expect to exist. 2 failures. Yeah, 1971. That's failing because we don't have the right context. So I'm going to copy this here. The new out of class scope. The class scope here is what is causing the test failures for call static method rule test. Yeah, so that's why that other test is failing, because is callable is busted due to our code. So I feel less in the weeds. I'm going to request review. I know I pinged directly. All right. So let's go back to this call user func array stuff. So there's not much inspection around call user function array. Probably because I feel like it's used mostly in like bigger CMSs, and it seems like the greater Drupal or greater PHP community doesn't use it nearly as much as Drupal does or WordPress. So one thing that got merged is call user func array before was failing. It didn't support named arguments. So if you called this function, it would break, or it had the wrong method signature. So you can provide named parameters to call user function array. The one problem is, so that's allowed, but it doesn't inspect the actual parameters passed to see if they match the callable. Then I was referenced to this pull request, and this pull request implements a dynamic return type extension, which is similar, but the idea is that call user func array should return the should make sure that the, you know, if you do say foo equals call user func array blah, that foo is now the same return type as the callable. But again, I don't believe this handles parameter checking. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I don't think it handles param. Let's take a look at it. So, let's see. So, call user func array, dynamic return, call user func. So, okay, so call user func array. So, if the function name is call user func, kufa, I'm just going to start saying kufa. So, args, default return type. If args is less than 1, never type. Callback type is the first argument. And callback type is callable. Yes. Return scope type. Scope get type new func call. Array slice args1, which pops off the first value. Just curious some of the so it's just to handle it in two different functions. So this makes sense to me. What was the concern about generics? We don't need to pass the args at all to get the return type, therefore just dropping args. When you think of generics and dynamic, okay, great. So before it was not passing the args, I'm glad it is now. Because that, maybe this would be fixed. Hold on. See, I'm gonna make a comment. With arguments provided, would this fix the second half of my concerns in issue 5934, where we need to verify the parameters passed to a function call. When we verify the parameters passed to a callback function match the actual function signature. We don't have a test. Would this fix? Oh, I forgot fix. Would this resolve? I'll say resolve the second half of my concerns in that issue. Which addresses the need to verify parameters passed to a callback function. I cannot type. Let's see. By passing the args to func call, will we get validation of the parameters passed to the function against its actual signature? Oh wait, hold on. Call user func array. Call user. Oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work at all. Wait, maybe it does. Yes, it does. Okay, so it is bypassing. need to. Why can't I think of good words? With arguments provided, would this resolve the second half of my concerns here? With the arguments provided to func call, will we get validation of the parameters there? Maybe that makes more sense. Does it matter if it's func call when it's actually a static callback? To a class method. So that's my other concern. Is it's saying function call, but really it's static call. No. Where'd that test go? Call static method rule test. Let's go. Shouldn't we be should we be returning when appropriate? There. So this is close. Maybe this will fix a handful of things. Like this, maybe this will resolve my concerns. So does it matter if it's a func call when actually it's a static callback to a class method? How about I just combine these two comments? Delete. Okay, I'll just combine those two. No need to have separate comments. Use function array. If we added strict, if we added types to the parameters in this test fixture, could we verify an error type such as is there a way like I thought something had a way. Oh, insert suggestion. Let's do that. Insert suggestion. So if we did this as int string bool, error, because that's in the there's the error type, and when it's described as error. So that would be an error. I hit Control V and it hit update. That's not what I intended. To array fun3. So that would be error. But then we did 1, 2, I have a few thoughts. Wondering if we could expand some of the testing and concerns of func call when it's a static call. What I think I might do, we're here right now. We got some time. So let's go try this out. So get checkout master, get pull, oh, get fetch prune upstream, get freebase upstream master, get push, PR checkout. Let's check out that pull request. So let's go. No, that's not what I wanted. I want to actually copy the file name. And wait, nothing's calling. Wait, class foo. Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, blah 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 blah. So call you the test. Where is the test? Node scope resolver test. Here we go. And it is added to this whole thing. There is no way to just test one little part. So we'll see what happens when it's added to Fund 3. Yeah. Okay, so this calls the callback return string. So that actually does a callback. All right. Hey. Expected type array ABC. Wait, but got error. Data bug 5428. No, what? What? No. Why would this fail? Let me do a PHP V. Oh. Composer update. Maybe I'm just behind. Yep, that's probably it. Wait, let's rerun that. What? I had this happen before. I have to purge the test cache. I think that will do it. No, joy. Crud. This happened before, and I really wish I could remember why. Oh, that's not. Oh, jeez. I know this happened before, and I cannot figure out why it was broken for me. Error in Bootstrap. Why? Um, 3. What is this? I said, let's just. So, make what I can do is run tests. Oh, wait, that just straight broke. CD, 1 second. CD into system directory. Why is this broken? Container factory. PHPStan test case. Well, like what? Is going on? 60. No. Yeah. Container factory create. Blah, blah, blah. Create. Calls create container. Which calls get cache directory. What did it call? Create container. Then it does load container here because it gets it by the service, get parameters, and kaboom. Strict get. Why? So let's do a debug, and I'm going to see if I can figure out. Oh, geez. Please report problem. This is not. Well, maybe I won't be testing this out. Why is this broken? Update. It's deprecated. Clear result cache. I can't even do that. Yeah, I can't even run PHPStan. Hold on. Composer.json 7.4, platform 7.4.6. So it's installing things off PHP 7.4.6. Let's do the good old RMRF vendor. Composer install. And hope that does something. Let's see. I'm going to quit PHPStorm. I doubt it's PHPStorm, but let's see. CD, where is it? Projects, PHP, PHPStan source. All right, let's open PHPStorm. All right. I really don't know why or how it broke, but it better fix itself. Otherwise I'll be very upset. Yeah, call user func array. I want this one to fail because it should say error. Oh, this isn't the test. The test is node scope resolver test. Wait for this to go through. All right. Now it's gonna work. What is going on? PHPStan bootstrap. No, like why? PHP bootstrap, auto load, blah blah blah. You gotta be kidding me right now. Like, I don't even understand how or why this is broken. Bootstrap runtime reflection. Is it because of this? Does it boots the container right away? Oh, well, that's why I couldn't get the breakpoint on it. All right, let's see. If not, is set containers. Yep, bootstraps the container. The root directory. Yep. Testing. The temporary directory. Create and throwable. Cannot read undeclared property. Configurator. What in the world? Source. Configurator. Oh, it's right here. Why? Return this parameter is this parameter debug. Configurator, use smart object, call static, get. So nothing's set the parameters. That's why. I'm guessing it's because nothing's set the parameters. Get, strict get. Yeah, that's exactly why. Because there's a strict get. Strict get parameters. Class. Yeah. That's exactly why. What? So get magic properties. So for some reason, it did not set the properties, and now I can't get PHP unit to run. And I really do not remember how I got this fixed last time, because I had this break in my test before when I did a composer update. Let's see. Contributing. First you need to run composer install, composer update. Nothing. Makes CS fix, makes tests. Debugging. If you're not, the results cache. Oh, it opened Chrome. And code of conduct. When you're not debugging the result cache, so add. So that make tests debug. Again, they exploded because nothing set the strict set. The object helpers. I don't know. I can't figure this out. And I can't get the tester on. Well, that's just great. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Oh, wait, shoot. What is this temp directory? That's taking forever to load. Oh, man. CD temp. RF temp. Nope, that didn't do it. I guess I am hosed for right now. Open the make file. Test integration, test coverage. Linting, fix. Oh, shoot. Did I delete? Oh, yeah. Those should not be. Let's revert that change. Run build. So I guess we'll see if there's any feedback on this issue. I really wanted to play around with it to see if it would work, but I can't get the test to run locally, so I'm kind of just stuck here at the moment. Oh crap, that's why. Stop. You can't run composer update. That's why I did. That's composer install. Don't run composer. So when working with PHPStan or developing, don't run composer update. Run composer install because the lock file is committed. And when you do composer update, you break all the things. So that is why. Let's run this test. Ugh. I've done that to myself twice now, and each time I had no idea how I broke it. So if you've ever hit a hard bug before, well, that tripped me up multiple times now. Okay, so it's instantiating the tests. And everything passed, which is not what I was hoping for. I was hoping, so call user func array. So call. So what I was hoping for is that this would be an error, but it is not, because it does not cause an inspection of the parameters. And I guess the question is, should that go into that dynamic return type extension, or is that kind of bloating the scope and it needs to go somewhere else? So we can look at type. So dynamic return type. Where are these at? Type PHP. Let's look in here and see if anything says error type. All right. Well, that's just, oh, shoot. That's in the actual array source type. Accessory. Type. That's not a return extension. All right, there we go. And traits. String. Fatal error. So this checks the, okay, so string word count. So if args is 1, if arg count is 2, format could be a union type, otherwise it's error, too many or too few arguments. So maybe min max. Function call args is equal to 1. If arg type, excuse me. So I feel like we would need to do a JSON throw type. Options type. What's options type? Get offset type. Closure from callable. So if it's not callable, oh, here we go. Parameters. So why don't we try this? So parameters equals variant, and the variant gets from the callable type. So let's see. I just want to experiment with this. So what is it? Call user func array. Yeah, that's where I have it. Call user func array. Is callable? Yes. This is the default return. So what we should do, I think, is callable type, get callable parameters, and then I wonder if the rule checker should go here. What do we do? So scope. So if each so this should be is callable, no. Callable type. Or we'll say callback type. So callback type is no. Should be callback types equals array, and type combinator union callback types. I guess just callback type variants. We'll say variants. It should be for each callback type parameters equals variant get parameters. Callback variants equals new. Actually, scope get type from function call. Let's do a breakpoint here. Oh man, breakpoint there with all of these no scope resolver tests with all these types. Oh well, it's gonna be, might take a second to hit that breakpoint. Undo that breakpoint. All right, I do need to sign off actually in 5 minutes as normal because I have an appointment at 3:30. But I would like to just see if we can try to get close to debugging this. So parameters is 0. Well, what is the variant? Variant, function variant with PHP docs. PHP return type, reflection. Well, what is the actual? So what is it? So callback type, constant string type. Constant string type is not a function. So what does this have? Get type, get node key. All right, let's just step over. And what gets returned? Get type from func call. So what does a function call turn into? It doesn't exist. So key this resolve types. Integer type. Okay, so it only it returns the return type from there. Closure type parameters, variant get return type. You can't, it doesn't, so this doesn't help us know if it's a method call or not. I was hoping maybe that would help. Parameters acceptors, select from args, scope, method called get args. I don't know what I'm wading into, but it does not fail as I thought. I'll make a comment there. I did a quick test locally, and it does not come back as an error, but as an error type. So the parameters are not checked. That's good enough. So the parameters are not checked. I don't know how to type. All right, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out on this wonderful Thursday. Made some progress on this call static. I'm hoping we can move forward on it, and also some work on call user func array analysis. So that would be really cool. So thanks for hanging out, and catch you next time.